The DailyWire has obtained the original script to Joe Biden's speech declaring he will not run for re-election. The script is handwritten in a fetching blend of Crayola colors, including permanent geranium, macaroni and cheese, and dandelion. And it reads as follows, quote, "My fellow geraniums." No, wait, that's the color of the crayon. What am I writing here? Oh, yes, I remember now. "My fellow geraniums, in the course of my pretending to be president, the people who are really in charge have accomplished many things. We've addressed climate change with a bill called the Inflation Reduction Act for some reason. I guess we were trying to make you think we were reducing inflation. In fact, we were taking all your money and sending it to our friends in the sustainable energy business. So now, instead of putting gasoline in your car and driving around all the time, you'll be able to just sit still by the side of the road and get some serious thinking done. You can ask yourself the big questions like, what does sustainable even mean in this context? And why isn't my car moving? So that's one thing we accomplished. And then, as dedicated progressives, we made the price of eggs progress from $1.40 to almost $5. So I guess that whole progressive joke's on you. Now, however, I find I can no longer do the things required to run for office, like run for office, or even walk without falling down, or talk in complete sentences, or think above the level of a tomato. And so instead of taking on the complex tasks of campaigning, I will henceforth restrict my activities to being President of the United States, leader of the free world, and Commander-in-Chief of a war machine that includes enough nuclear weapons to set the Earth ricocheting through the solar system like a pachinko ball. And you may ask, well, if you can't perform tasks like standing slack-jawed in front of a microphone and reading off a teleprompter in a manner the media can at least pretend is coherent, how will you handle the complex life and death decisions that go with the presidency? But that's a ridiculous question. For one thing, it's so long I've already forgotten the first part of it, and without that, the second part is just a meaningless string of words, and then suddenly there's a question mark. Who could have seen that coming? So, as I step down, I want to endorse what's-her-name, that sort of black woman who keeps cackling all the time, because she's the type of candidate the Democrat Party deserves after stabbing me in the back like this. And that goes double for my good buddy Barack. What a snake in the grass that guy is. I didn't realize when he said he had my back, he was acquiring a target. I should have known after he threw me over for that other cackling hen of corruption, the white one. What was her name? Hillary. What is it with Obama always trying to get cackling, corrupt women elected president? It's like some kind of fetish, like me sniffing little girls' hair. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know. Maybe that's just the dementia talking. So that's it for me. But don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. Not on foot, anyway, especially if there are stairs or even just stuff lying around on the floor. That can be treacherous, too. I'm just going to lie here and be president and hope nothing too difficult happens like war or economics, because I'm way beyond being able to handle stuff like that. And watch out for all those new voters we let in through the southern border. God knows what they'll get up to. Whatever it is, let's hope it's not too loud when it goes off. It's hard enough getting to sleep with Jill rattling on and on about that snake Obama until the medication kicks in, and even then, she snores like a hedgehog. Finally, let me just say that I couldn't have done all this without you, the American people, pretending I was all right. Actually goes for my whole career. I mean, really, what a bunch of saps. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show. All right, we're back, laughing our way through the final battle between good and evil. Laughing too much, probably. I almost got through that. Klavan Klapbacks, if you want to send us some notes, questions, personal questions, comments on what I'm saying, Klavan Klapbacks, Klavan with a K, Klapbacks with a K, at dailywire.com. We actually love hearing from you, so please send in your comments on the show or even your personal questions, whatever you want. Watch our interviews on Wednesdays. Last one was with Matthew Goodwin, an expert on the British politics and what it has to do with American politics. It was a really good interview. And this week, we're looking forward to talking to Megan Basham, our own cultural reporter. She's got a new book out, an unbelievable book called Shepherds for Sale. And speaking of books, my own next edition in the Cameron Winter series, number 4, A Woman Underground is now available for pre-sale on Amazon. I'm finishing up number 5 now. That's the last book I'm contracted for. All of these books, you have put all of these books on the USA Today bestseller list. I would like to see if we can pump this one, A Woman Underground, onto the Times list. Please show up and pre-order or order or whatever you want. I think you'll really like it. It's a really exciting transitional book, and I think the series is really going well, so I hope you'll support it. Leave a comment wherever you are listening. DailyWire Plus, you can listen there for free, or YouTube. And if the comment is the kind of thing that, we probably shouldn't be saying on the air, we will say it on the air because that's the kind of thing we do here. Comment, Widow Son 2020. Klavan was always my favorite Star Trek captain. I was good in Star Trek, the Star Trek captain, Star Trek The Bald, I think it was called. And I was actually there in person for the scene in 2001 when the monkeys found the Earthstone. So I've actually been doing this for a long time. Let's get to today's episode, Trump versus the Cackler. This is the Marvel summer blockbuster of our election, Trump versus the Cackler. And I'm going to tell you something about this election on the show that no one else has dared to say. You'll notice I waited until Jeremy, the God King of the Daily Wire, was out of the country because he's worked hard to build this company, and I am going to destroy it by telling you that this presidential election actually is about gender. Donald Trump has now shown himself to be the most macho presidential candidate since Teddy Roosevelt. He almost literally spit out a bullet after being shot. They're so afraid of his flagrant manhood that the corrupt head of the FBI, Christopher Wray, is now spending investigative time trying to prove he wasn't hit by a bullet, he was hit by shrapnel, as if that were somehow less dangerous and makes him less tough. He doesn't know who the shooter was or what his motive was or what actually happened or why the guy was allowed up on the roof. But he wants to make sure that you don't think that Donald Trump is as tough as he obviously was. This is the same Christopher Wray who told us Biden was fine, and now he says Trump was hit by shrapnel. Actually, I think today, just before I came on, they determined he actually was hit by the bullet because that wasn't going. So Trump is all man, and Kamala Harris is, in fact, a cackling witch, and that is the difference between them, and it is going to be a difference between men and women voters, and I'm going to explain all of that to you in the final chapter. But let's get started now with Chapter 1, Enormous Changes at the Last Minute. Many can attest that there is nothing more annoying than when blinds allow that sliver of light in at the crack of dawn. Unless you're a morning person, if you've seen one sunrise, you've seen them all. Now there's a better way to buy blinds, shades, shutters, and drapery. It's called 3-Day Blinds. They're the leading manufacturer of custom window treatments in the U.S., and right now they are running a buy one, get one 50% off deal. You can shop for almost anything online these days. Why not shop for blinds too? People don't talk about blinds. My wife handles all these things, but whenever she changes them, they actually the room does become beautiful. 3-Day Blinds has been in business for over 45 years and has local, professionally trained design consultants who have an average of 10 plus years of experience. That's why they are the highest rated blinds company on Trustpilot at 4.7 out of 5 stars. Just set up an appointment and you'll get a free, no obligation quote the same day. Not very handy? The expert team at 3-Day Blinds handles all the heavy lifting. They design, measure, and install so you can sit back, relax, and leave it to the pros. Right now, you can get 3-Day Blinds, buy one, get one 50% off deal on custom blinds, shades, shutters, and drapery. For a free, no charge, no obligation consultation, just head to 3dayblinds.com/Klavan. That's buy one, get one 50% off when you head to 3dayblinds.com/Klavan. One last time, that's the number 3DAY blinds.com/ how do you spell it? KLAVAN. So much has changed so fast since we met last week. Since my last show, Democrat Senator Bob Menendez has stepped down because he's corrupt. Democrat appointee Kimberly Cheadle from the Secret Service has stepped down because she's incompetent. And Joe Biden has ended his reelection campaign because he's senile. So now the Democrats have coronated their new presidential candidate, Kamala Harris, because she's corrupt and incompetent, and she talks as if she were senile. So The other changes, I mean, there's so many changes. You might have before, for instance, before this happened, before she was the presidential candidate, you might have criticized Kamala Harris for her left-wing policies, for the fact that she talks nonsense, she talks in these kind of word salads, the fact that she's obviously corrupt and has made her way in the world through strategy and not through merit. But now, whenever you attack her, it's going to be because you're racist and sexist. That has now totally changed. The New York Times immediately ran a headline asking, will voters reject a woman like they did with Hillary? I rewrote it with a little pen. I rewrote it for them to fix it. I said, will they reject another cackling, corrupt woman like they did with Hillary? On the far left show, The View, which is for women, a woman congresswoman, a far left woman congresswoman, Pramila Jayapal, explained to America's women what the Democrat Party now requires of them. This is cut one.
What she needs is our faith in her and our willingness to fight back for her as we hear all of what we know are going to be a lot of misogynistic, sexist, racist attacks on her. We got to be ready. So, are you all ready?
Yes.
Yeah, the women of America are ready. They're ready for this. Now, just to show that, because I'm going to be talking about women, I'm going to be saying terrible, insulting things about women that women are going to hate, and feminists especially will hate. I just want to prove, set all those issues aside and just prove that I'm being completely fair about this. Before we get into this, I just want to find out who has the best cackle. I mean, if we're talking about cacklers, I think we should look at all the great cackles that have come along, because we're going to be dealing with Kamala Harris for the next 100 days until we hopefully vote her into oblivion. So let's find out. Let's start. I think we should start with the original cackler, Margaret Hamilton from The Wizard of Oz. This is clip 2. So that was good. And then there's Mila Kunis from Oz the Great and Powerful. This is cut 3. Now, a little imitative of Margaret Hamilton, but still very powerful. Hillary Clinton from Oz, the most corrupt person in politics, got 23. Now, that was close, a little Margaret Hamilton-esque. Here is Kamala Harris herself, clip 5. Just to prove I'm not being sexist, here is Ben Shapiro imitating Kamala Harris after getting coached by Estee, the great Kamala impersonator. Cut 4. Now, my judgment here is Margaret Hamilton. See, Margaret Hamilton what she captures is the mirthlessness of evil, that she laughs. Evil people are always laughing, but they're mirthless because they're evil, so their souls are emptied out. And I would say it's a tie between Margaret Hamilton and Kamala, and the only reason the Democrats didn't ask Margaret Hamilton to run for president is because she's green. I mean, they just don't like green people. So there are also other things that have changed, however. Maybe you'll find these things more important. You may have noticed that before Kamala became the candidate for president, one of her credits was that she was the border czar. Joe Biden said it is not her full responsibility and job, but she's leading the effort, because I think the best thing to do is to put someone who, when he or she speaks, they don't have to wonder about, is that where the president is? When she speaks for me. So the press called her the border czar because the president said she was the border czar. Now, one of the things that has changed, she said she was going to look into the root causes of why people were suddenly swarming our border. Was it oppression? Was it climate change? Was it oppressive climate change? Or was it the fact that Democrats think Mexicans will vote for them for generations, so before they cotton on to the truth, so they've abandoned the rule of law and American security and just opened the borders? That may be one of the root causes. But suddenly, now that she's running for president, she was never the border czar. Our friends at Media Research Center put together a montage. This is alternating before the election and before she was nominated for the presidency and afterwards, how the press reported this. Same venues on the press as cut 6.
Harris was not a border czar.
Meantime, Vice President and border czar Kamala Harris facing some backlash.
What he said about Harris and immigration was not true. She was never appointed border czar.
And this will be her first visit to the U.S.-Mexico border region since she was appointed as the border czar by President Biden.
People are going to have to counter the misinformation. You already hear folks talking about the border czar. She wasn't the border czar.
President Biden tapped Kamala Harris by Vice President Kamala Harris to be the border czar.
Now, she wasn't the border czar. That's what Republicans labeled her.
These changes, things are changing in America so fast that I personally am having a hard time keeping up. My favorite one of these, by the way, was from Axios. I think everyone loved this. In the past few days, Axios reported the Trump campaign and Republicans have tagged Vice President Kamala Harris repeatedly with the border czar title, which she never actually had. And there's an editor's note. This article has been updated and clarified to note that Axios was among the news outlets that incorrectly labeled Harris a border czar in 2021. I got to tell you something. So these people, I don't know what it would be like to come to work and lie to you. I really don't. I mean, you guys know that I have lost audience telling you the truth, even when you didn't like it. What it would be like to put on my tie in the morning and say, here's another day, honey. I'm going off to lie to those people. I do not know what to say. All right. Suddenly, why did the media suddenly demote her from the border czar? You may wonder that, but we have the answer from the president of the National Border Patrol Council. This is the union for the National Border Patrol. Brandon Judd explained why Kamala Harris is no longer the border czar. This is cut 21.
Kamala Harris knows what she needs to do. I was there. I gave her all of the policies that she needed. All of them. And she refused to implement them. She does not care about you. She does not care about the safety of this country. He does. This is the man for the presidency.
He was talking, of course, about Donald Trump, who was standing next to him. And the National Border Guard has supported Donald Trump. You wonder why. Why have they supported him? Probably because they want to do their job. Now, here's some other changes, other things that have suddenly changed. I mean, it really is. Life in America is just racing by so fast, we can barely keep up with the changes. Another one, you may remember when Joe Biden was the sharpest president ever. Behind the scenes, all those people who saw him behind the scenes, they said he was sharp. All the people in the media, the New York Times talked about how we conservatives, we were evil, saying we were manipulating video and to show that he was wandering off. But no, that was just cheap fakes. One of the people who said it repeatedly was former border czar and now no longer ever the border czar. She's not just a former border czar. That entire part of her history has been expunged. So one of those people was Kamala Harris, who told us again and again that Joe Biden was sharp as a tack and he was absolutely fine. Here she is telling it to the New York Times. One example out of many. This is cut 9.
I spent a whole lot of time with our president, be it in the Oval Office or the Situation Room and in other places. And I can tell you, as I just mentioned, not only is he absolutely authoritative in rooms around the globe, but in the Oval Office, meeting with members of Congress, meeting with leaders in industry, meeting with community leaders, I will tell you that he is in front of, often, everyone in the room in terms of thinking about how we can resolve issues, negotiate in a way that is about concession where necessary, but for the sake of accomplishment and actual work.
Let me ask you in a more complicated way. I think there's a lot of people would say she can't say anything else. She couldn't tell if there was a problem.
I'm not lying.
So she's not only lying, she's lying that she's not lying. All right. So then he was smart. Remember, Joe Biden was smart. And then suddenly, it's 1 month ago, just about exactly 1 month ago from the debate, suddenly he was a drooling idiot. I mean, this happened like overnight. The changes are so fast, one can hardly keep up with them. Suddenly he was, George Clooney was telling us he had to step down. The guy just didn't have what it was like, what we needed to be the president. It was like that. Suddenly he became an idiot. And, some of these dementia things, they take time to progress, but not in this case. In this case, it was one day. And one day he suddenly lost his marbles. And then I know you'll be awestruck by this. Your jaws, hold your jaw because it's going to drop to your chest. Suddenly he became a great man again. He anointed Kamala Harris. Nobody had to vote for her. Do the voting stuff. This is a democracy, after all. We don't have to vote for people. We just coronated Kamala Harris. And suddenly, like that, he became a great statesman once again. He made a speech. He made the speech to the public. I gave you a little bit of the transcript of the way he wrote it originally, but then he made a speech to the public. The speech, you could barely understand what he was saying. He was slurring his words. And he did not explain one big thing, why he was no longer running. He was all in. Remember, this is another thing that suddenly changed. He was all in. Then he said this. This is cut 16.
The cause of American democracy itself must unite to protect it. You know, in recent weeks, it's become clear to me that I need to unite my party in this critical endeavor. I believe my record as president, my leadership in the world, my vision for America's future, all merited a second term. But nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy. That includes personal ambition. So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. That's the best way to unite our nation.
So he didn't explain it. He didn't explain. This is another sudden change. First, he was the guy who had to be the president. He had to run, and suddenly it was time to pass the torch. We don't know why. He didn't explain it. You could barely understand what he was talking. I don't know why all the pictures behind him suddenly changed. And this was the reaction from the media. Cut 17.
Just taking a step back, this was a speech for the history books.
I took note that this didn't seem to be a campaign speech tonight. This was not a rally. This was really, it seemed, a moment for the president to define his decision in his own terms, to explain why he believes the stakes are so great, this moment for democracy.
This moment puts him, with a bunch of American greats, the sort of George Washingtons of the world.
I want to give you the opportunity to respond to those attacks tonight from Donald Trump, who is calling the vice president a radical left lunatic.
If what he clearly wants to set up here actually happens, there will be a lot of people who will view it in the selfless, sort of heroic lens that he wants it.
So I know some of you may be confused, just the way that time is just like, it's almost speeding up, it's like it's happening so fast. So he was the sharpest tack. He was behind the scenes. Kamala Harris was seeing him behind the scenes, and he was smarter than anybody else in the room. Then suddenly, he's a drooling idiot. And George Clooney, nope, he wants his money back. He wants his $30 million back. So that was no good. And then suddenly, he's George Washington again. It's like, you just can't keep up with it. So much has changed, which leaves this question. This is the big question we're facing now. Will the people who were lied to by the media and by the politicians, and then found out at the debate that they had been lied to by the media and the politicians, and are now being lied to again by the media and the politicians, will they just go back and forth believing the next lie, even though it's the opposite of the last lie? And here is the answer. The answer is men won't. Women who are married to men and who respect their men and listen to their men won't. Women who don't have men or who don't listen to their men will believe the same lies from the same liars they believed before. And that's what's going to determine who wins the presidency. In the last election, married men voted for Republicans 20% more than they did for Democrats. Single men also favored GOP candidates on the ballot, but by a much slimmer margin of 7%. And the same exit polls showed that married women favored the Republicans by 14%. Unmarried women sided with Democrats, a whopping 37% more than they did Republicans, according to CNN's data, which was collected from about 20,000 respondents. We are going to talk about why that is, and in doing so, probably end my career and possibly take the Daily Wire down with me, because we're going to tell you something you don't hear that often in America anymore, namely the truth. While many have told me I don't look a day over 72, I've been informed on the importance of making sure I'm staying on top of my health in my middle youthful years. Now imagine trying to eat 31 different fruits and vegetables every day. That sounds miserable and time-consuming, but with Balance of Nature fruits and veggies, there's never been a more convenient dietary supplement to ensure you get a wide variety of fruits and vegetables every day. I take it every day. Balance of Nature takes fruits and vegetables, they freeze-dry them, turn them into a powder, and then put them into a capsule. You take your fruit and veggie capsules every day, and then your body knows what to do with them. Go to balanceofnature.com and use promo code Klavan for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer, plus get a free bottle of fiber and spice. That's balanceofnature.com, promo code Klavan. I use them every day. Every time you take them, you can say, I'm doing the same thing as that. Well, how do I spell it? Oh, yeah, it's Klavan.
There are no easy things.
Chapter 2, Unburdened by What Has Been.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. You know? What can be unburdened by what has been. There are those who are unable to see what can be, but there are many more who are able to see what can be unburdened by what has been.
Now, some of you out there might think that the idea of a future unburdened by the past might be the stupidest idea that anyone has ever thought of, since we learned from the past. It would be like forgetting your past life, just waking up suddenly and you're 40, but you've never lived with all the experience that you had. That just is all gone, right? Tradition is the wisdom of the wise. It's how we continue to know what people have learned through the past. But that was before things were changing instantly like this. When things change instantly like this, you just got to let the past go, man, because that will not tell you anything, because the things that were true yesterday are no longer true at all. So we want to take Kamala Harris and completely unburden her. For instance, now she wants to remember, suddenly, she wants to become a prosecutor again. She was a prosecutor originally, and then she stopped being a prosecutor, and so now she wants to be a prosecutor again, and we have to unburden her of that past when she stopped being a prosecutor. So here's what she's saying now. This is going to be her campaign, basically her stump speech for the next 100 days. This is cut 12.
So as Leah told you, before I was elected vice president, before I was elected United States Senator, I was elected Attorney General of the state of California, and I was a courtroom prosecutor before then. And in those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Predators who abused women, fraudsters who ripped off consumers, cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
So that's important because, Donald Trump, you may not have heard this, but Donald Trump is a convicted felon. I know it never made the news, but we really need Kamala Harris to prosecute him because he's not being prosecuted by like every minor county throughout the country and by the federal government. But the funny thing about her tough on crime stance that she has now suddenly recovered is that it's kind of unburdened by what has been in the meantime. Because, for instance, during the George Floyd riots, she was very much interested in the idea of defunding the police, another thing that has disappeared down the memory hole for the Democrats. But here is Kamala Harris talking about defunding the police, cut 10.
We have confused the idea that to achieve safety, you put more cops on the street. Instead of understanding to achieve safe and healthy communities, you put more resources into the public education system of those communities, into affordable housing, into home ownership, into access to capital for small businesses, access to health care regardless of how much money people have. That's how you achieve safe and healthy communities. And so we really do need to understand and reimagine what and how we can actually make and help make communities safe.
So she's getting to the root causes of crime, just like she's getting to the root causes of why people are pouring over our borders. It doesn't do anything, but at least she's getting to them. The other thing she did during the George Floyd riots, and they are now a fact-checking organization, said this wasn't true, but it is true. She supported a fund to bail out rioters. She had a tweet that went out, if you're able to, chip in now to the MN Minnesota Freedom Fund to help post bail for those protesting on the ground in Minnesota. And to be clear, this is reporting from Stephanie Price at Fox News. The fund spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to free an alleged knife murderer, a convicted rapist who was facing charges of sexual assault and kidnapping, among others. Another criminal was a guy named George Howard. He allegedly became involved in a road rage altercation on an interstate where he killed another driver. Ann Coulter, on her Unsafe Substack, which is very good, her Unsafe Substack, she makes the point that as Attorney General of California, the only thing that Kamala has ever been elected to, it was Kamala's job to name propositions. In California, they vote on all the propositions that then become law, unless the government doesn't want them to, then suddenly they don't. But in this case, they did. And Kamala's job as Attorney General of California, her office named these propositions. So, for instance, they had Proposition 47, which turned grand theft, commercial burglary, and possession of illegal narcotics into misdemeanors. These had been felonies, and then they turned them into misdemeanors. And this is the one where they said that theft of anything worth less than $950, even if it was a gun, became a misdemeanor, which resulted in huge spikes in shoplifting and smash and grab robberies. And last year, Los Angeles, Oakland, and San Francisco topped the list of the U.S. cities with the most retail theft. So Kamala's office, when she was Attorney General, entitled Proposition 47, the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act. Then there was Proposition 57, which allowed the early release of thousands of violent criminals, including those convicted of murder, attempted murder, grand theft, child molestation, drug use, and possession of drive-by shootings. Among those released under Proposition 57 was Gregory Gadlin, who had been sentenced to 35 years to life for assaulting his girlfriend with a 7-inch butcher knife. He had previously been convicted of raping his 11-year-old niece and the rape and sodomy of a pregnant 17-year-old. He was freed under Proposition 57. So was Luis Stephen Flores, who had been convicted of assault with a deadly weapon, a semi-automatic gun, battery on a peace officer, and battery of another inmate, and Alfredo Casillas, who shot a rival gang member and nearly beat him to death. Harris's office, when she was Attorney General, called Proposition 57, the Early Parole for Nonviolent Criminals and Juvenile Court Trial Requirements Initiative, and her summary told voters that a yes vote supported increasing parole and good behavior opportunities for felons convicted of non-violent crime. That was on Ann Coulter's Substack Unsafe. The fact is, Kamala Harris was found by a nonpartisan group to be, this is GovTrack, to be the most liberal senator. And then she lied when confronted about this by Nora O'Donnell on CBS. This is Cut 8.
You're very different in the policies that you've supported in the past. You're considered the most liberal United States senator.
Somebody said that, and it actually was Mike Pence on the debate stage. But
yeah, well, actually, the nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator. You supported the Green New Deal. You supported Medicare for all.
That stupid look on her face is the look you're going to see if there's a nuclear attack while she's president. Just a dumb look. And you will not believe this. You will not believe how fast things are changing. This is absolutely true. GovTrack, the so-called nonpartisan organization that said that Kamala Harris in 2019 was the most liberal senator, has taken that web page down. I had a list of her votes in 2019 that I was looking at all week long, getting ready for this show. When I went to find it, it had been removed, even from that Wayback Machine that is supposed to preserve all the things that are on the internet. This is a genuine attempt to have a present unburdened by the things that were, a future for Kamala Harris unburdened by all the things she has ever done and believed. She has repeatedly supported equity over equality. Equity is a socialist idea that we should give people what they need and take from them only what they can give. That's socialism. So if, for instance, I'm playing LeBron James at basketball and he's got, 500 points and I've got none, I get 250 of those points because that's the only fair way to play it. There is right now one person precisely who is telling the truth about Kamala Harris. And that is Donald Trump, Macho Man Donald Trump. This is clip 13.
She is a radical left lunatic who will destroy our country. If she ever gets the chance to get into office, we're not going to let that happen. I was supposed to be nice. They say something happened to me when I got shot. I became nice. And when you're dealing with these people, they're very dangerous people. When you're dealing with them, you can't be too nice. You really can't be. So if you don't mind, I'm not going to be nice. Is that
okay? So will people listen to him? Will people listen to Donald Trump telling the truth? Men will. Men will. Women who listen to their men will. Women without men will keep believing the same people who lie and lie and lie to them, even when those lies become exactly the opposite. There's one lie going around about J.D. Vance cursing out people, basically, degrading people, women who don't have children. They cut out the 5 minutes before that when he said, I am not talking about all women who can't have children. I'm talking about the fact that too many female Democrat leaders don't have children, which is a real problem in Europe, too. For a while there, almost all the leaders of Europe had no children, men and women, obviously both. And that's a bad thing because you don't have an investment in the future. And that is a problem with Democrats who are, in fact, anti-natal. So that is another lie that is being told. But lies by the same people who lied before. Why, oh, why, oh, why do unmarried women keep listening to lies from the same liars who lied to them in the exact opposite way before? And I hope, if many women are feeling insulted now, if you're thinking, I'm going to write to that Jeremy Boring and tell him that evil Andrew Klavan is saying nasty things about women, he's out of the country. No, that's not what I meant. What I meant is, please go ahead, because I'm just going to tell you the truth. All right, we're going to move on. But I really have to say this one thing. This is just an emotional reaction for me. I got to give you this. I said this before, but I seriously do not know what it's like for these people, these news people, whose job it is to tell the truth, to come in every day and lie. This actually really does. Most of the things that happen in life, I know the world is full of corruption and evil. I've been around a long time. I understand all that. But some of these people, I know they think of themselves as good people. I know they think, oh, I'm nice to my kids or whatever. And yet they come in and they look at a camera. They do exactly what I'm doing now. And instead of working all week to make sure I come in and tell you what I believe to be the truth, and I'm an opinion person, I'm supposed to give you my opinion, they come in and do this stuff. Everything that has happened is gone. The future, the present, every moment is unburdened by the past because nothing has happened before but what they want to have happened. Nothing is going to be told to you except what they think is going to get the person elected that they want elected. Lies, lies, lies. For some, tossing and turning all night is a frustrating experience. For me, it's just the way I spend my nights. But when I want to go right to sleep, I love me some Beam. It's not just your run-of-the-mill sleep aid. It's a concoction carefully crafted to help you slip into the sweet embrace of rest without the grogginess that often accompanies other sleep remedies. And it really does work. It really it tastes great and it puts you right out. Beam Dream contains a powerful, all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. Today, my listeners get a special discount on Beam's Dream Powder, their best-selling hot cocoa for sleep with no added sugar. It's now available in delicious flavors like cinnamon, cocoa, chocolate, peanut butter, and mint chip. Better sleep has never tasted better. Just mix Beam Dream into hot water or milk and enjoy before bedtime. If you find yourself battling the bedtime blues, give this a shot. Your weary self will thank you. If you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, take advantage of 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/Klavan and use code Klavan at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/Klavan with my promo code Klavan for up to 40% off your order. And as you drift off to sleep, you will say to yourself, yeah, but how do you spell Klavan? It's Klavan. No E's in Klavan. I just make it look this easy.
Klavan, there are no E's in Klavan.
Chapter 3, Plus She Hates Jews. Now, this is one thing that brings all people together, is hating Jews. It's right people, left people, wicked people on all sides are always picking on the Jews. And it is just amazing. And I really do believe it's a theological thing. I've talked about this too much. I won't go on again, but I really do believe that the Jews represent the God who has become the God, the major religion of the West through Jesus Christ. And he's bringing basically Jewish ideas of morality that go against most of the tribal ideas throughout human history, and certainly go against pagan ideas, which is what we've been recently descending into. But you will notice that people who hate Jews, that governs everything they think. You will see people right now on the right who are anti-Semitic, who are suddenly against Donald Trump, even edging toward Kamala Harris, because Kamala Harris wants to see Israel destroyed and believes that the people in Gaza, the people who raped and slaughtered all of these innocent, unarmed people, raped women to death, are now, as I'm speaking to you, holding hostages, including American hostages, are the victims in this case. This is what they believe. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, Bibi Netanyahu, spoke before Congress, a joint session of Congress, and I believe this is the 4th time he's been there, so that's got to be some kind of record, I think. And normally these joint sessions are chaired by the vice president, but Kamala did not show up. She met with Netanyahu afterwards. And Democrat Rashida Tlaib did show up with a sign, holding a sign while Netanyahu was speaking, that called him a war criminal and said he was guilty of genocide. And this is another one of those things where words mean the opposite. This is another one of these enormous changes at the last minute. The Democrats changed the meaning of words. So you used to know what a woman is, and now you have to ask Matt Walsh. He's the only person who remembers what a woman actually is. And genocide, which is killing people because they are a certain race. It means trying to wipe out a race. It was a term invented for the Holocaust, really. And it means, wiping out people who have the same genetics. It does not mean getting into a war with a country. That is not what it means. When we were bombed at Pearl Harbor, we got into a war with Japan. Many of the people we killed in that war were Japanese, but we weren't killing them because they were Japanese. We were killing them because our nation was at war with theirs. And that is what is happening in the Middle East now. I mean, it's not, Netanyahu emphasized that there were Muslim friends of Israel ever since Donald Trump, ushered in the Abraham Accords. There have been friends. They have used the growing power of Iran to realign the Middle East, something that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris completely deserted, bringing about the problem we have now, which is all Iran. It's all Iran. Same people say, it drives me crazy when the same people who say America first because they hate the Jews support Hamas and Iran who say death to America. So Netanyahu got up in front of Congress and he said this. This is cut 14.
We meet today at a crossroads of history. Our world is in upheaval. In the Middle East, Iran's axis of terror confronts America, Israel, and our Arab friends. This is not a clash of civilizations. It's a clash between barbarism and civilization.
And that is absolutely right. I mean, you only have to ask yourself, if you've ever been to Israel, it's a wonderful country, if you've ever been there, whether you want your country, the world, to look like Israel, where women have rights, various religions, all the different religions have rights, where people have rights and are treated with respect and they have a democratic government, or you want the government to look like the Palestinian territories where terrorists rule. Women do not have rights. They're completely abused. Gay people don't have rights. They can be killed for being gay. They don't really have voting anymore in places like Gaza. You ask yourself, what world do you want? That is why people have wars, because they want to decide what kind of war they want. And that is why people who are tyrants start wars, because they want to conquer other people and make sure they live in the same way as everybody else. They don't have democracy to compare it to. And one of the things, Netanyahu did thank Biden for his support, but basically it was kind of a backhanded, or what they used to call a Jewish compliment. It was a backhanded compliment in that he said, you've got to hurry up and give us the arms we need to finish the job. And then he thanked Trump for the Abraham Accords, and then he said this, cut 15.
I also want to thank President Trump for all the things he did for Israel, from recognizing Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights, to confronting Iran's aggression, to recognizing Jerusalem as our capital and moving the American embassy there.
Right. So that was a kind of a big applause line for Donald Trump, because Donald Trump was really the best friend Israel ever had. So afterwards, Kamala Harris sat down with Netanyahu and talked to him. She came out and she said that she supported the existence of Israel, but she then said this, cut 22.
What has happened in Gaza over the past 9 months is devastating. The images of dead children and desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety, sometimes displaced for the second, third, or fourth time. We cannot look away in the face of these tragedies. We cannot allow ourselves to become numb to the suffering, and I will not be silent.
Well, she will be silent about one thing. One thing everybody's silent about. Where the hell are our hostages? Because this war ends the minute they return the 120 hostages they're raping and killing as I speak. That would end this war. That's how you end the war. You give back the hostages. Why is that not what we're calling for? All over in cities all across America, in cities all across Europe, they put up posters of these faces of the people who are being held hostages, and they are torn down. Why are they torn down? Why are they not in the newspapers every day the way they were when Iran took our hostages and, that got Carter, it caused Carter to lose the election to Ronald Reagan because the people were being held hostages and the press counted the days. They counted the number of days Americans were being held hostage. Why is that not being done now? Well, you know why it's not being done now, because now the press is corrupt. The press was not as corrupt then. It was always liberal, it was always left, but it was not corrupt the way it is corrupt now, where they claim it's Donald Trump, but I'm sorry, it really is not. It really has been since Reagan they have been this corrupt, this detached from their purpose, their telos, which is telling the truth, and attached only to winning what they want. I just want to add, while I'm attacking women in this violent, terrible way that makes them feel unsafe, I just want to add that right now, these demonstrations, there was a demonstration in Washington, D.C., and if you've never seen Union Station is like a monument. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous building with a big open courtyard up in front of it and American flags. And these clowns were tearing down the American flags, setting them on fire, and putting the flags of Hamas, who are Nazis, up onto these telephone poles, up onto these flag poles, in front of Union Station, which is an iconic building. It's not just any train station. It is an iconic building. The flags of Hamas were being flown over Union Station while American flags were being burned, and while the protesters were chanting, "Burn that crap," referring to the American flags. I don't know why defacing a rainbow is now an imprisonable offense because you are insulting gay people, but burning an American flag is free speech. And I want to add just one more thing while I am attacking being so cruel to women. Kay Heimowitz writes about this in the City Journal. The demographic makeup of university demonstrations for Hamas was something new for the United States. American women have led political protests before, but those generally concerned women's issues such as prohibition, abortion, Me Too, and the like. Granted, women marched with men in the 60s, civil rights and anti-Vietnam War protests, but they usually played secondary roles. This is not true now. The women are the people who are protesting. That's why you see interpretive dances instead of fistfights at these things. You're seeing women protesting in favor of Hamas because women are now the majority in universities, and that's what they're teaching in universities. So they're going to universities to be lied to, as they're being lied to by NPR and ABC and NBC and CBS and the New York Times and Washington Post, lied to about one thing one day, and then the next day told the opposite, and then the day after told something else. And if they are unmarried women or women who do not listen to the men in their lives, they believe him. And that's what we're going to talk about in our final chapter. Hey, did you learn about history, economics, the great works of literature, and the meaning of the U.S. Constitution in school? Of course not. Of course not. Even if you did, maybe it's time for a refresher course. Time and technology have changed a lot of things, but they have not changed basic fundamental truths about the world and our place in it. And that's why I'm excited that Hillsdale College is offering more than 40 free online courses in the most important and enduring subjects. I love Hillsdale College. I taught there for a couple of weeks. It is a wonderful place. They do great work. You can learn about the works of C.S. Lewis, the stories in the book of Genesis, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, or the history of the ancient Christian church with Hillsdale College's online courses, which are all available for free. I'll say that again. They are free. That is pretty cheap. I personally recommend you sign up for American Citizenship and Its Decline with the wonderful Victor Davis Hanson. In this 8-lecture course, VDH explores the history of citizenship in the West and the threats it faces today. Threats like the erosion of the middle class, the disappearance of our borders, the growth of an unaccountable deep state, and the rise of globalist organizations. The course is self-paced so that you can start whenever and wherever you like. Start your free course, American Citizenship and Its Decline, with Victor Davis Hanson today. Go to hillsdale.edu/Klavan right now to start. It's free and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/Klavan to start. Hillsdale.edu/Klavan. There's even a course on how to spell Klavan. The whole thing is just Klavan, then it's over. Final chapter of the Great Gender War. Now, I'm an anti-feminist. I'm not a feminist. I believe, of course, in full rights for women and women's individual choices, and that women should determine their own lives. I don't think that's feminism. I think that is constitutional Americanism. I think that is basic human rights. Feminism, however, is the idea, as far as I'm concerned, and this is its main idea, that women should adopt the values and the lifestyle of men, and that what men have said to be valuable is valuable, and that what men have done is more valuable than what women have traditionally done. And I reject all of that. I think it's untrue. In order to sell these untruths, feminists have invented what we will call feminist logic, which is that every generality is disproved by a single exception. This only happens at certain times. If I say men are generally taller than women, probably nobody will object. But when I said women can't win a sword fight, a medieval sword fight against a man, women went nuts. They tried to find examples, any example they could. Joan of Arc, who never fought in a battle, that's not what happened. But, they just, and this went on for months of attacking me. If I say that men are stronger than women, if I say men are better at science than women, they say, no, here is a woman who is better at science than you, and that disproves it. Or here is Ronda Rousey could beat you up, they'll say. And that disproves that men are stronger than women. That's feminist logic. The feminist logic is there exists a woman who could beat up a man. That is, so therefore, men are not stronger than women. Real logic is that every single woman on earth can be beaten up by a man. Ronda Rousey, Gina Carano, love her to death, but every single woman, Captain Marvel, the Scarlet Witch, they can all be beaten up by a man who is basically their age and in the same business. If they're fighters, if it's a woman fighter, put a male fighter up next to them. This is why, it's insane when Billie Jean King won that tennis match against a 50-year-old man that he threw the match. That was supposed to prove something. It doesn't prove anything. Even the Serena Williams lost to the number 200 ranked male, I believe it was. I'm not sure if that's the exact number, but it was way, way down there. The point is that every woman athlete can be beat by a man. That is just true. It's just the way it is. So there's exceptions do not stop the generalities. Without generalities, you can't talk about principle. So when I say things about women, let it be known that I'm making generalities. Women are individuals, almost as if they were real human beings, and they are different, and there are different situations and different things, and people should do what they want to do and live the lives that God wants them to live. This has nothing to do with this, but I'm still going to make generalizations. Before Biden stepped down, one Quinnipiac poll showed that Trump had the support of just 36% of women. 58% of women were ready to vote for Joe Biden, a guy that anybody who was paying attention knew was too senile to be the president. So they were willing to vote for a senile goober over Trump. They just don't like this guy. Now, I don't believe in making great generalities about things, like what they call totalizing principles, like life is about this or society is about this. But sometimes it's kind of like being the blind man with the elephant. You're only seeing one side of it. But sometimes that helps. Sometimes you're just taking a look at one side of things. And that's what I'm going to do now. There is a sense in which the central purpose of every society is to figure out the distribution of women. Because women are valuable. They're valuable not just for their company and for their way of looking at things and for sex, which is a lot of fun, but also because they are the only path there is to continuing your genetic inheritance. That is the way it is. When men want women on this kind of basic animalistic, just life level to reproduce, right? So the most obvious way to distribute women is to give all the women to the strongest man, right? So you reproduce from the strongest person. That's the way many gorillas, silverbacks live. The one guy gets all the girls. And the problem with that is it sounds like a good idea, but it's unstable because obviously all the other guys finally think to themselves, oh, I know what we'll do. We'll get together and we'll kill the main guy, the alpha guy, and we'll steal the woman. And that's why those governments are unstable. That's how you get Magna Carta, where the aristocrats, the most powerful people, go to the king and say, we want power too. That is kind of the human way of acting out that guerrilla system. Ultimately, other men want women. When you have a democracy, the best system is monogamy, right? One per customer. Everybody gets a woman. And it sounds like that means that weak people will be allowed to breed, but it turns out it's actually a pretty good system because it favors diversity. Because a lot of times the smartest guy in the room and the strongest guy in the room are two entirely different people. So you want the strongest guy to reproduce, but you also want the smartest guy to reproduce, and that is how humanity advances. In fact, monogamy, one per customer, is a really good basis for a society. However, it goes against the guerrilla code. And the guerrilla code is written into our DNA. We're somehow related. I'm not saying we evolved from gorillas, but we're related to them. We're not that far away from them. The men want lots of women. So the strongest man wants all the women, and the women want the strongest man. That is the way evolution has designed us. So the strong have to take back the women. They want to take back the women from a system that is free. A system that is free is going to be a monogamous system. That's the way that works because it is the best system for freedom. It means everybody gets something, right? All the women get a man, all the men get a woman, as close as we can come to that. The strong want to take women back, and they have to do it through, because it's a free system, they can't do it by force. They might want to, but they can't. They have to do it by lies. And there are two big lies they want to tell them. One is your husband is a no-goodnik, he's a pain in the ass, and he's bossing you around. That's the first lie. And that lie is probably not a lie. It's probably true on some days at least. But the big lie that the government wants to tell you, that the people who want the power concentrated all in one place to get all the women, they want to tell you is that women can take care of themselves. And women hate the idea that they can't take care of themselves, but women cannot take care of themselves. They're smaller, weaker. Men are stronger. Men are mean. They're more aggressive. They will take them over. They'll do it anytime they can, anywhere they can. They will abuse them. They will hurt them. Women have to come up with different strategies for survival than men do, right? Men buff up. They get tough. They study karate. They learn how to fight. Women can do all those things, and there still is going to be a man who can take them down. Women have to find different ways of being safe, and one of those ways is finding a man to protect them. To convince women of things, you need what I will call atmospherics. Women are very, very susceptible to atmospherics. Women are more social than men, and they are more emotional than men. And if the emotional atmosphere of the society around them says A, women are more likely to say A than to be a contrarian like me and say, I don't care what society is telling me. This is the truth. This is the way that emotions are controlled, and this is what the culture is about. When I come here and I complain that I don't want to see any more movies where a woman beats up a man, and I'm talking about these little, model-level, beautiful women who punch a guy and he goes rolling backside over tea kettle out of the room. Or I'm talking about the woman who's the smartest scientist on the team. She's the toughest. She's the bravest. And by the way, women are plenty brave. It has nothing to do with that. But they have to be brave in different ways than men are. When they pour out these movies in which the women are the tough guys, the women are the smartest people in the room, the women are the strategists, they're the best tacticians, when they do that, it's not true, but it creates an atmosphere. And if you say to a woman, men are stronger than you, you can't win a sword fight in a medieval situation. You may win one where there are rules, where there's, it's fencing and all that stuff, but you cannot win a sword fight against another warrior who is trying to kill you. It cannot be done. When you read a science magazine now, they only interview women scientists. If you said, you know what, for every woman scientist, there is a man scientist who is going to be better at science than you. Women find this very offensive. They find it offensive. And the reason for that is because feminists have convinced them that male values are the values, that to build a home, to nurture a child, to bring a child into fruition as a human being, this is less than doing something that a man might do better. This is less than building a rocket ship to the moon. I'm sorry, that's a falsehood. It is not true. Suddenly then, you have this idea, women walk around, and I know women like this. Younger guys than me complain about this all the time. Women think they can beat you up. Women think they can beat you up, and they can't. And if and look, I'm telling you, I've seen guys go after women. It has to be stopped. You have to stop it because the woman will get herself killed. When women are convinced that they can take care of themselves, suddenly they find they have to turn to the government. They have to turn to, Me Too. It's Me Too. We have to be able to sue. We need government child care. Who's going to take care of my baby? We need government child care. What if I can't work because I have children? We need welfare. Who will take care of the women? Who will protect the women? This is the question that every society has to ask. If you say you will have a husband You will have other men who will respond if you are under attack. You will have men who will come to your aid because they are gentlemen and you are a lady, and we honor what a lady is, and we honor what women's values are, and we want to protect women because we need their values. We need not just them and their bodies and their reproductive systems. We need their values in our society, or the society of psychopaths. A society of men would be a society of psychopaths. We need women and their values, and that is what feminism has taken out of the world. You know, Barack Obama put out that thing, The Life of Julia, where he was going to take care of you. Barack Obama was going to take care of you throughout your life. That thing has been scrubbed from the internet because it said the quiet part out loud. Women can't take care of themselves, but don't let your husband do it. Don't let the society do it. Don't let the ethos of men respecting women and honoring women for being women, don't let that happen. Let the government do it. And that's what they've been selling you. And that's what they've been selling you all this time. I've talked many times about the fact that before feminism, there were movies that were kind of for women, but a man could go see them. You could go and watch a Bette Davis picture, for instance. I've watched many of them with great pleasure. There were pictures that kind of emphasized the woman's role, but they were about human beings, right? And the men's pictures, maybe they had gangsters and action and more shooting in them, but a woman could go and see them because they were about real people. Then in the 80s, when feminism first flared up, I suddenly looked around and I thought, God, all these men pictures are Schwarzenegger pictures and Stallone pictures that are just pure violence. They're just pure like a drug. I mean, I loved them. I would go and watch them all the time. But you couldn't take your wife to them anymore. You couldn't both go and see a Schwarzenegger picture. My wife doesn't want to see that stuff. And the women's movies became these intolerable rom-coms that a man could not sit and watch, because the idea was that a man is one thing and a woman is another thing. And that is how it came to pass that they could say, well, if a man is like a woman, then he is a woman, which is a falsehood too, right? Look, here are the facts, you know. Trump is a far more moderate, more competent, and more honest politician than Kamala Harris. Is he a bore? Is he overbearing? Is he maybe a little too macho? Does he behave in ways that are not good for women in his personal life? All true. All true. Those are emotional factors. Doesn't matter. He's not running to be your husband. He's running to be the president of the United States. He's more moderate, more competent, more honest than Kamala Harris. He is. He is more moderate in his policies, even about abortion, than Kamala Harris, who would abort a child a minute before it was born. He is more competent, and he's proven that in the way he governed it the first time. And he's more honest than Kamala Harris in the things that come out of his mouth. The press, Hollywood, academia are ways of supplying atmospherics. This is what the culture does. This is why conservatives who are more male-oriented don't produce culture as well as the left does. That's why. That is why they're good at it. That's why they care about it, because the atmospherics are an emotional atmosphere and it affects women. Women, if they do not swoon over their husbands, will swoon over government power. They will become enslaved one way or another. They will either become not enslaved, but taken care of by someone who loves them, or they'll be taken care of by someone who does not know their name and is sucking them dry for their power, the way the machines did in the Matrix. This is an election between the most macho politician who has come down the pike, really, since Teddy Roosevelt, and this cackling witch. It is going to be determined on whether or not the atmospherics seduce women into being lied to by the same people they were lied to 10 minutes ago and 10 minutes before that, telling opposite lies. What is really going to decide this election is whether the powerful will convince the women to become theirs, or whether we will go on having a monogamous, democratic society. This is a battle between men and the women who love them, and men who love women, and women alone. So here is something cool. Lumen, a new sponsor. It's tough to prioritize your health, especially if you're not sure where to start. This is what Lumen helps you do. It's the world's first handheld metabolic coach. I've been using it, just trying it out. I haven't done it a lot yet. I just got it, but it's really interesting. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning to know what's going on with your metabolism, meaning whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs, and then the app gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workout, sleep, and even stress management. You don't need a one-size-fits-all diet or one of those fad diets. What sets Lumen apart is its ability to understand you on a personal level. Listen, I would not look as incredibly gorgeous as I do at the age of 325 if I were not taking care of myself. Now I no longer have to stress about what I should be eating the morning after I take maybe a late night snack or something I shouldn't have eaten. Lumen's ability to craft a personalized nutrition plan for each day tailored to my body's needs and goals is revolutionary. With Lumen, you're not just getting a device, you're getting a health companion. Breathe into it before and after a workout or a meal and gain real-time insights into your body's metabolic response. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/Klavan to get 15% off your Lumen. That is LUMEN.me/Klavan for 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. And if you want to know how to spell me, it's KLAVAN. After more than 2 years, DailyWire Backstage Live is making its return to the legendary Ryman Auditorium. August 14th, join us live in our hometown of Nashville, Tennessee. One night on one iconic stage with one incredible opportunity to witness DailyWire history in the making. I'll be there along with Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, Jeremy Boring, and a whole lineup of surprise guests. You do not want to miss this. Now, here's the catch. The Ryman only holds about 2,000 people, and this will sell out. It's been 2 years since our last Backstage Live at the Ryman, and who knows when we'll do it again. Go to dailywire.com/Ryman and grab your tickets now. All right, Klavan Klapbacks.
I'm not lying.
Yeah, we're going to hear that a lot from her, I'm sure. All right, from Andrew, I disagree. He says that there are anti-Semites on the right. If a person is anti-Semitic, they are not on the right. Part of the definition of being on the right is that you support Israel and the Jewish people. Well, look, I appreciate the sentiment of that. I really do. But we have to talk about this for a minute. This is actually a really interesting point. No philosophy protects you from wickedness. Hating people for their race, hating people as in groups, unless it's a group of evildoers, is really a way toward being evil. I mean, obviously, there's a reason. You know, Jesus doesn't tell you to love mankind. He tells you to love your neighbor, and your neighbor may be anything. And so I think that kind of wickedness it doesn't disappear because you're a conservative. I'm a conservative because I believe conservative solutions work. But I understand that there are good people on the other side, and that some of the things that they add to the political mix are important and have made our country stronger in some ways, even though, I have objections to them. I know they see it in a different way. But no philosophy protects you from wickedness. And anti-Semitism is a special kind of wickedness because I believe it's a hatred. Underneath it lies a hatred of God. And I think that Christians can hate God and Muslims can hate God, and anybody can do it if God is restricting them from getting the things that they want, which are usually things that are bad for them. And I know that there are people, it's like this argument that Hitler was actually a leftist because the Nazis were the National Socialist Party. But the fact is Hitler cleared the socialists out the minute he took power. Like a year after he took power, he killed off the socialists and threw them out of the party. And I would say that he was more of a right-winger in his nationalism, just like Stalin was more of a left-winger in his communism. Nothing protects you. No philosophy protects you from evil. Only the good protects you from evil. Only, surrendering some portion of your desires to God will protect you from evil. So I don't know. There are guys that I consider right-wingers who are suddenly, dumping Trump because Trump is good for Israel, who support Kamala Harris suddenly because she hates Israel. I think this goes either way. I wish what you were saying is true, but I just can't agree with you. All right, we're going to go into member block, and that means some of you are going to be left behind in a desert of Klavanlessness. It's just like blowing sand, darkness, heat, death. It's awful. You're just crawling through the despair. So become a member. Become a member today. Go to dailywire.com/subscribe and use code Klavan at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans. And that way you will get to come into the member block before you're then dumped in the Klavanless eternity.